I heard a fable that is attributed to Rumi about a bird that was in a gilded cage owned by a merchant in a faraway land. And this merchant decided he was going to take a trip to India, from whence he had gotten the bird at one time. And so he said to his bird, "Is there anything I can bring you from India that would make you happy?" And the bird looked out from its cage and asked the merchant for its freedom. And the merchant declined and said, "No, is there something else that I can do for you?" And the bird thought for a moment and said, "Well, when you're down there, please go to the jungle and to the wild birds of my relations. Tell them of my captivity in this faraway place, and come back and give me their news." And so the merchant agreed, said, "Yes, I can at least do that for you." So when the merchant got to India, he went to the jungle and he found the wild birds that resembled his captive pet. And one flew down on a branch nearby, and he turned and said to it, "I have a bird just like you in captivity in my living room, in my home far away from here." And upon hearing that, the bird stopped singing and fell down unconscious onto the ground below. The merchant assumed it had died. And when he went back to his home far away, he went to his bird, and the bird asked him, "Did you do as I had asked of you?" And the merchant said, "Yes." And the bird said, "Was it good news? Do I have any good news from my friends?" And the merchant got thoughtful for a moment and said, "No, I'm afraid the news is quite bad. You see, when I mentioned that I had you in a cage here in my home, the bird fell down dead from the branch. Was it a relation of yours?" Upon hearing the news, the bird in the cage fell down unconscious at the bottom of the cage. And the master opened the door and took the bird outside, thinking that it had died in shock from losing one of its relatives. But as soon as he laid it down outside, the bird flew away and landed on a nearby branch. And he says, "Thank you so much, for through you I found out the way of escaping my captivity." And I thought, what an interesting story. Boy, it really took a different turn. Didn't go where I thought it was going to go at all. And I sat and ruminated or contemplated it for a while, trying to figure out what exactly is being said there. And I read later on that one of the Sufi ideas of thinking is to take lessons from the whole picture, to take lessons that aren't direct, but learn from the experience as a whole. And that this bird, by doing that, had understood that the first bird had not died, but had shown him what he has to do in order to get his master to free him from the cage. And it's a lesson on living, a lesson on being in the moment, on paying attention, on turning your life into a conversation with your beloved. That everything that happens to you today, everything you see, everything you hear, everyone you meet, none of it is necessarily by chance. That if you live your life with a conscious awareness of the presence of God, everything can become a lesson. Everything can become a little note of teaching in some way or another. And not just in the obvious ways. I know in some of my darkest times, when my biggest struggles were around, that the temptation is to just sit in that dark and let everything be interpreted negatively. But there were times when I realized that that darkness was a call to arms, was a call to stand up and to renew my commitment and to renew my efforts in my spiritual life. And I increased my practice and grew a great deal from those dark times and brought out something quite unexpected, that actually the dark times in my life, in many of their cases, became very bright times where I managed to step into a new light and a new place. So live your life in the company of the beloved, not just as a name in your mind or as a belief for your religion, but actually in a way of interacting with your beloved in everything that happens. To hear him singing in the trees, to recognize the beauty in his branches, to find the inspiration in his bright rays of sun. Those are the easy ones. Live consistently that way and find the secret ones.